When you think of meditation, what often comes to mind? Maybe a quiet moment, gentle breathing, just relaxing.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
Well, today, we're going way beyond that. We're doing a full deep dive into Vipassana meditation. It's often called the path of insight, and it's much deeper than just chilling out.
Definitely.
Our mission for you today is basically to give you a shortcut, a real understanding of this profound system. It's ancient, but also surprisingly modern.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to unpack its roots, how it's practiced now, the science behind it, and really importantly, the challenges and things you absolutely need to consider.
And we've pulled from a lot of different places for this, looking at Vipassana as philosophy, as history, the actual techniques, scientific studies, and crucially, what people actually experience doing it.
So aiming for a really complete picture.
Exactly. Nuance.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Vipassana. Beyond the name, what is it really?
Well, the name itself gives us a clue. Vipassana, it's from Pali, the old language. Vi means something like in a special way or clear, and passana means to see.
Oh, okay.
So you get translations like insight, clear seeing, or maybe the most direct, to see things as they really are.
But not just like looking around the room seeing.
No, definitely not. It's described as a penetrative understanding, cutting through illusions, basically, to get at the true nature of reality.
Wow.
Its fundamental purpose is self-transformation through really rigorous self-observation. The idea is to experientially discover the scientific laws governing your own mind, your feelings, sensations.
And that connects to how it's often presented today, right, as the art of living, this sort of universal, non-religious fix for everything.
Yeah, and that's where it gets fascinatingly complex, that non-sectarian label. It's a very deliberate choice, both philosophical and frankly, promotional.
How so?
Well, while it's marketed to everyone, the courses themselves are deeply rooted in Buddhist doctrine, the Dhamma. They often use Pali chanting, focus heavily on the Buddha's teaching.
So not exactly secular underneath.
Not really, no. This framing mostly came about during Buddhist modernism, like 19th, 20th centuries. It was partly a response to Western colonialism.
Oh, okay. A way to resist.
Exactly. Presenting Buddhism as rational, empirical, scientific even, to appeal to modern people and push back against Western cultural dominance. So the universal aspect today actually comes from that specific historical strategy.
That's quite a twist.
It is, and it leads to criticism, you know? Some people feel they're kind of being taught a religion when they thought it was secular.
I could see that.
But regardless of that framing debate, the core mechanism is still self-transformation through self-observation. Exploring that deep mind-body connection by paying super close attention, moment by moment, to physical sensations.
And you mentioned it's deconstructive.
Yes, that's a key description. It aims to deconstruct, to take apart these unhelpful mental and emotional habits we all have.
So, okay, this isn't just about breathing exercises then. It's about understanding reality on a fundamental level. What are the core truths it's trying to show us?
Exactly. It aims to reveal, through direct experience, 3 fundamental truths or marks of everything that exists. These are anicca, dukkha, and anatta.
Right, let's break those down. Anicca.
Anicca is impermanence. It means everything, absolutely everything. Thoughts, feelings, your body, the world is constantly changing. Nothing lasts. Everything that arises must pass away.
Like the Buddha's last words.
Precisely. Decay is inherent in all component things. Vipassana aims to shift this from just an idea you agree with to something you feel directly by watching sensations constantly appearing and disappearing in your own body.
So it's not intellectual, it's visceral. You feel the change.
That's the goal. Then there's dukkha, often translated as suffering, but unsatisfactoriness might be better.
Why unsatisfactory?
Because the key insight here is that dukkha isn't built into the world. It's our reaction to the fact that everything changes, Anicca.
Nah.
We constantly crave pleasant experiences and push away unpleasant ones. But since everything is impermanent, that craving and aversion just creates endless tension and dissatisfaction, suffering.
Because you can't hold on to the good stuff or permanently avoid the bad.
Exactly. And finally, anatta. This is often the hardest one to grasp. No self or egolessness.
Yeah, that sounds pretty counterintuitive.
It is. It's the insight that there's no fixed permanent I or self running the show. What feels like me is actually just a constantly shifting, impersonal process of mental and physical events. Seeing that directly helps dissolve that ego clinging, which is seen as a major root of our suffering of dukkha.
Wow. So how do you actually work towards realizing these huge concepts in the practice. Do you tackle all three at once?
No, not really. In practice, the main gateway is considered to be anicca, impermanence.
Okay, focus on change first.
Right. There's a saying, if you know anicca correctly, you will know dukkha as its corollary and anatta as ultimate truth. So the core practice involves methodically scanning your body, observing whatever sensations arise, heat, tingling, pressure, pain, anything with equanimity.
Without reacting.
Exactly. And because bodily sensations are always changing, anicca becomes impossible to ignore. It's right there, constantly.
It's fascinating how these ideas, which sound so deep and maybe even esoteric, went from monasteries to being practiced worldwide. It wasn't a straight line, was it?
Not at all. It's a really complex journey. Yes, Vipassana is described as ancient, rediscovered by the Buddha, foundations in texts like the Satipatthana Sutta. But for centuries, intensive practice was mostly for monks and nuns.
So how did it break out?
The big shift was the Burmese Vipassana movement in the 19th and 20th centuries. And like we touched on, this wasn't just spiritual. It was tied up with resisting British colonialism.
Right, preserving culture, making it accessible.
Yes, making these powerful practices available to lay people, partly as a way to strengthen Burmese identity and Buddhist heritage against foreign influence.
So who are the key people driving this revival?
Several figures stand out. There was Ledi Sayadaw around the turn of the 20th century, who was really crucial in popularizing it for non-monastics. Then his disciple, Sayagyi Yubakin. He was actually a senior government official, which is interesting. He set up a meditation center in Rangoon, really emphasized the practical, observable results.
Right, results.
Yeah. And then probably the most famous name globally, S.N. Goenka. He studied with Yu Bakin.
The name most people know.
Right. He was authorized to teach in '69, moved to India, and just built this enormous non-commercial network. Over 170 centers worldwide now, all teaching that standardized 10-day course.
Wow. Is he the only lineage, though?
Oh, no, definitely not. There was also Mahasi Sayadaw, a contemporary of Yu Bakin. He developed his own distinct method, the new Burmese Satipatthana method, which is also very widespread globally, uses a different technique.
So Goenka is huge, but he's one important branch of a larger revival.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've got the ideas, the history. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. That 10-day residential course, it sounds intense. What's the actual structure? What does it feel like?
It is intense, yeah, and very structured. It's built on a framework of 3 parts. Sila, Samadhi, and Panya.
Okay, what are those?
Sila is morality. It's seen as the absolute foundation. For the whole course, everyone takes 5 precepts.
Which are?
Abstaining from killing any living being, stealing any sexual activity, lying, and taking any intoxicants.
And that's not just about being good, for goodness sake, right? It serves the meditation.
Exactly. The idea is it calms the mind, reduces feelings of guilt, agitation, restlessness, things that really get in the way of concentrating deeply.
Makes sense. What's next? Samadhi.
Yep, samadhi is concentration. This is developed mainly through anapanasati, observing your natural breath.
Just watching the breath.
Right. Usually focusing attention on the small area at the entrance of the nostrils. The goal is to make the mind really sharp, focused, stable, kind of taming the unruly mind, as they say.
Okay, foundation laid, mind sharpened. Then comes Panya.
Exactly. Panya, wisdom or insight. This is the main event, you could say. With that calm, sharp mind, you start systematically observing physical sensations all over your body. The aim is to gain that direct experiential understanding of the 3 marks we talked about, anicca, dukkha, anatta.
And how does the Goenka course specifically structure this part?
So days 1 to 3 are pretty much all anapanasati, building that concentration, that samadhi, just focusing on the breath of the nostrils, sharpening the tool.
Okay.
Then days 4 through 10, that's when you switch to Vipassana proper. You do a systematic body sweep, head to feet, feet to head, part by part.
And what are you looking for?
You're not looking for anything specific. You're observing whatever physical sensation arises. Could be heat, cold, pressure, tingling, vibration, pain, numbness. Anything.
Even numbness, or if there's nothing.
Yeah, that's key. If an area feels blind, like there's no sensation, the instruction is to just stay there patiently for about a minute with calm awareness until some sensation is felt, because something is always happening, even subtly.
And the absolute core principle through all this observation is equanimity, upekkha.
Yes. That's described as the most crucial element, observing all sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, with a completely balanced, non-reactive mind.
That sounds incredibly difficult, especially with pain or strong discomfort. How do they teach you to do that?
It is incredibly difficult. It's cultivated through constant practice and reminding yourself of anicca, impermanence. The goal is to break that deep unconscious habit we have of craving pleasant feelings and hating unpleasant ones.
Because you know they'll pass anyway.
Exactly. You observe it arise, you observe it pass away without getting caught up in liking or disliking. That's how you cut the root of suffering, supposedly. And then right at the end, on day 10, they teach metta bhavana.
Loving kindness.
Yep. Sharing the peace and harmony you've hopefully developed with all beings, kind of integrating back outwards.
This whole setup sounds incredibly immersive.
Yeah.
The residential setting, the silence. What's the day-to-day reality? Why so intense?
It is very immersive. The residential setting is key. Minimize all outside distractions. Maximize continuity of practice. That continuity is called the secret of this technique's success.
Keeps the momentum going.
Right. It allows for that deep operation of the mind. You're meditating for up to 10 hours a day.
10 hours?
Yeah. And a huge part of enabling that is noble silence ariyamana. From when you arrive until the morning of day 10, absolutely no communication with other students, no talking, no gestures, not even eye contact.
Wow, complete isolation within the group.
Pretty much. It really helps the mind settle down without social distractions.
And how are these courses funded? They're famously free, right?
They operate on dana, which means donation. There's no charge for the teaching, food, accommodation. Everything is funded by donations from people who've already completed a course and felt they benefited.
Keeping it non-commercial.
That's the aim, to keep the teaching pure. The daily schedule is intense. Wake up at 4 a.m., structured meditation blocks all day. And there's a strict code of discipline, the 5 precepts we mentioned, plus rules like no other religious practices, no yoga, no reading or writing, no phones, and strict separation of men and women.
Okay, this brings up something you mentioned earlier, the criticism about rigidity. Some sources compare it to military training or even prison. Others defend it fiercely. What's the tension there? Is it about breaking the ego, or is it just control?
It's a major point of debate. Defenders say that strictness is essential. It forces you to confront your ego, your resistance, your desire for comfort and control. They see submitting to the rules as part of the practice of letting go.
Okay, a necessary hardship.
That's the argument. It creates this focused container. But critics find it excessive, controlling, even torturous. They argue it can stifle critical thinking and feels unnecessarily harsh, like military training or, prison-like.
So the rules themselves become part of the challenge.
Absolutely. The source notes the rules are an active and, for many, a confrontational part of the whole experience. It really highlights that whether the method works for someone might depend a lot on their personality and how they react to that level of structure and control.
Okay, so that's the intense Goenka model. But Vipassana isn't a monolith. How does it compare to other types of meditation like samatha or even the mindfulness that's everywhere now?
Good question. Within Buddhism, Vipassana, insight, and samatha, tranquility, are often seen as the 2 main paths, or sometimes 2 aspects of the same path.
Insight versus calm.
Basically, yeah. Samatha aims for deep, calm, one-pointed concentration, samadhi, often by focusing on a single thing, like the breath count, to quiet the mind. Vipassana uses that sharpened mind, samadhi is needed, to investigate reality, to gain insight, panya.
So related but different goals.
Traditionally, they were seen as complementary, like 2 wings of a bird. But in many modern approaches, like Goenka's, they're taught sequentially. First, build concentration, samatha days 1 to 3, then use it for insight, Vipassana days 4 to 10.
Right. And how does this stack up against something like MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction? A lot of people encounter that.
Big difference in goal, mainly. MBSR, developed by John Kabat-Zinn, is a secular adaptation from Vipassana and other Buddhist practices.
Secular being the key word.
Definitely. Vipassana's ultimate aim is liberation from suffering, nibbana. That's a soteriological goal about ultimate salvation or freedom. MBSR's goal is therapeutic: reduce stress, manage pain, improve well-being in a worldly sense.
So MBSR takes the techniques but leaves the Buddhist philosophy and goals behind.
Pretty much, yeah. It intentionally strips these techniques of their Buddhist philosophical context, the code of moral discipline, sila, and any soteriological language. Makes it accessible for hospitals, workplaces, etc.
Got it. And you mentioned the Mahasi Sayadaw method earlier as another major Vipassana lineage. How does that differ from Goenka's?
The most obvious difference is the primary object. Instead of the nostrils, Mahasi practitioners focus on the rising and falling sensation of the abdomen as they breathe.
Okay, different anchor point.
And maybe the most distinctive feature is the use of mental noting or labeling.
Labeling.
Yeah. As you observe something, you make a soft mental note. So feeling the abdomen rise, you might mentally note rising, rising. If a thought comes up, thinking, thinking. If you feel pain, pain, pain.
What's the purpose of that?
It's meant to sharpen awareness, keep you anchored in the present moment, and prevent you from getting lost in the content of the experience. Mahasi method also strongly emphasizes maintaining awareness throughout all daily activities, not just sitting meditation.
Continuous mindfulness.
Exactly. And it's worth remembering, even beyond Goenka and Mahasi, there's a whole range of other Theravada meditation practices out there, meditations on elements, visualizations, mantras, even energy centers. The popular Vipassana movement is just one slice.
Right. So with all this practice and these different approaches, what does science say is actually happening? Does it back up the claims of insight and transformation?
Yeah, the science is increasingly interesting. There's pretty consistent evidence for psychological benefits, reducing stress, anxiety, depression symptoms, improving overall well-being, things like life satisfaction, self-kindness.
Stuff you might expect from meditation.
Right. But there's more. Potential for helping with addiction, possibly by improving self-control and decision-making. Cognitively, it definitely seems to strengthen attention and focus.
Like training the brain muscle.
Kind of. And there's preliminary evidence for actual changes in the brain plasticity, new connections, changes in structure and function with long-term practice.
Any specific studies stand out?
There was a well-known one in 2008, published in PubMed. It looked at brain waves, specifically the P3A wave, which is related to how your brain responds to distractions.
Okay.
They found that experienced Vipassana meditators had a significantly smaller P3A response when presented with distracting sounds compared to non-meditators.
Meaning their brains were less bothered by the distraction.
Exactly. It suggests reduced cognitive and emotional reactivity, which lines up perfectly with the goal of upekkha, equanimity. Their brains weren't reacting as strongly, even automatically.
So the training seems to show up in brain activity.
It looks that way, yes. The science is starting to provide a biological basis for some of these long-held claims about mental training.
Okay, we've heard about profound insights, cultural history, scientific backing. It sounds pretty amazing, but our sources are very clear. This is not easy. It's definitely not relaxation. We need to talk seriously about the challenges and the risks involved.
Absolutely crucial. This needs to be said loud and clear. It's an arduous path. Just the physical challenge of sitting for hours can be intense. Then there's the mental battle, constant distractions, sleepiness, restlessness, doubt.
The monkey mind on overdrive.
Totally. But it can go deeper. The practice can feel downright scary sometimes. It dredges up difficult emotions. Anger, resentment, sadness, so stuff you might have suppressed for years can come bubbling up quite forcefully.
Not exactly peaceful bliss all the time.
Far from it, for many people, especially initially. And then there are those specific criticisms of the Goenka tradition we mentioned.
Right, the rigidity again.
Yeah, the military training feel, the strict rules. Also, criticisms about dogmatism, the claim that this is the only pure original method, the whole non-sectarian, but actually quite Buddhist issue. And some people even find the old audio-video recordings used in the courses repetitive or irritating.
So discomfort, irritation, confronting difficult emotions. But it can get more serious than that, can't it? The source mentions real psychological risks.
Yes, this is the most important caution. Because it's a deep operation of the mind, it can forcefully bring suppressed psychological material, including trauma, to the surface. And if someone isn't prepared or doesn't have the resources to cope, it can be overwhelming.
Leading to actual harm.
Potentially, yes. There are documented cases, though likely rare overall, of severe adverse effects. Psychotic episodes, worsening depression or anxiety, hallucinations, severe insomnia, mood instability. Some people have required psychiatric hospitalization after intensive retreats.
Why might that happen? What's the mechanism?
Remember, we called it deconstructive. Well, that's meant to lead to insight. For some minds, especially if there's underlying vulnerability, that deconstruction of the usual sense of self and reality can be profoundly destabilizing.
Things fall apart and you can't put them back together easily.
Something like that, potentially. So the key message is, Vipassana is not recommended as a substitute for medical or psychiatric treatment, and it may be inappropriate for individuals with pre-existing mental health conditions, especially things like psychosis or certain personality disorders.
So definitely check with a professional if you have a history.
Absolutely. Extreme caution is advised for conditions like schizoaffective disorder, And even the retreat environment itself, the sleep deprivation, basic foods, social isolation, intense mental effort can be a psychologically breaking point for some people, regardless of prior history.
It's also worth noting the science isn't universally positive either.
Right. While many studies show benefits, some show non-significant effects. Outcomes seem highly variable depending on the person, the context, maybe the specific retreat. It's not a guaranteed positive outcome for everyone. So, pulling it all together, what we see is that Vipassana is clearly a profound, systematic, historically important way to explore the mind and purify it.
Powerful tool.
Definitely a powerful tool, and this is the big, but it's not a panacea, nor is it a simple relaxation technique. It's a really rigorous and demanding discipline.
And that popular 10-day course, it seems like it can be this amazing crucible for insight.
Yeah.
But it also generates some very valid criticisms about its style and intensity.
Absolutely. It highlights the need for a really informed, discerning, and cautious approach. You have to know what you're getting into. Like any powerful tool, it must be respected and handled with care.
So that art of living it talks about, it's not just handed to you. It's earned through some pretty serious, dedicated, and mindful effort.
That sums it up well.
And for anyone listening with a history of mental health difficulties, the message seems to be, proceed with extreme caution, and ideally, get professional guidance before diving into something this intense. For everyone, really, this journey of seeing things as they really are seems to demand not just courage to look inside, but also the wisdom to know your own limits.